All right. Well, it looks like our chat is just about to start up here. This is our Illustrator 2 chat. And just want to welcome you. And Ginger's here. All right, Ginger. I'm so glad that you could make it tonight. Thanks for coming. So this is our Illustrator 2 chat, and the class starts up this Friday. So this is a chance for me to just talk a little bit about class for those of you who may still be considering whether you'd like to take it or not. And please, if you have any questions, just step right up and ask them. In fact, Ginger has already typed in here. We have a Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and you can put your questions in there. And you can also, the chatter box on the right-hand side of the screen is also a good place to chat back and forth. And I'm not sure if we'll have many people here tonight because we had a little email glitch today, and so the announcement about the chat did not go out. So we're just going to see if anybody else shows up, and I'll be here answering any questions you may have, Ginger, and I'll just talk about the class, and that way we'll archive this and put it on the website so that people who want to see it later can take a look and hear about the class. And I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Laura Coyle, and this is my second Illustrator class on ReneePearson.com. The first one is called Beginning Illustrator, pretty self-explanatory. And then this one is the next step up. So the whole foundation is laid in Beginning Illustrator, and in Illustrator 2, we start talking about a lot of the things that you can use to really move your artwork beyond just the regular flat solid fills that you see in Illustrator. So we work with gradients, we work with transparency, we work with patterns, pattern fills, and then we also work with some really amazing features in Illustrator like live trace, and we do a little bit at the very end of class on vector smart objects. So that allows you to work back and forth between Illustrator and Photoshop. So there are a lot of goodies in this class, and I'm just going to go through and sort of talk about that. And also, if you haven't taken a class here at ReneePearson.com before, this class is a 3-week class, and I'll be leading the class. So starting this Friday, we will release the first week of videos. So all the lessons in the first week will become available this Friday. And they're all streaming videos, so you can watch them at your own pace. And then the following Wednesday, we'll have a live chat, much like this one here, where I will be doing a demonstration in Illustrator on things that are relevant to what we're covering in class. And then I'm available to answer any questions that you have. So we do those chats every Wednesday during class, so there'll be 3 chats. And the chats start at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the afternoon, and then 9 o'clock at night Eastern Standard Time. So that gives students a choice as to which one they can attend based on whatever time zone you're in. And so we also, if you can't make the chat, we also archive them, and they're in the classroom. So if you miss a chat, no big deal. You can always go back and watch it later. It's just an hour full of demonstration and also a little bit of links and things like that. So I can sort of point you in some directions that might help you further your study with Illustrator. So the chats are really good. And then also we have all throughout class, we have a forum, so you can always check in and ask a question if you come upon one, or see what other people are asking questions about. And I'm monitoring the forum throughout the 3 weeks of class pretty regularly. So I'm on there in and out during the days of class, and I'm there to answer your questions. So so the forum is great for you too. And then we also have included in class a a PDF reference guide. In fact, I have some pages of it right here. You can always print this out, or you can just read it online. It's in PDF form, and it basically outlines the class. Sometimes there's additional information. Sometimes it's just a review, and I know some people really like to have some written material to sort of remind them where they're at in the class. It's a great separate piece that you can refer to that sort of maps out where the lessons are and what was going on in the lesson. So that's available to you as well. And then, of course, there are exercise files. So each week when you get the lessons, you'll also be wanting to download the exercise files. And in those files are lots of some artwork or things that we're talking about in class. So basically, that's everything that's included in the 3 weeks of class. And once you have access to everything, once they've been rolled out and you're watching them and downloading the files, you have lifetime access to all that content. So even if your schedule is a little, busy in October, as I know a lot of people's are, you can check in when you can, work on lessons when you can, but just know that even after class is over, after the 3 weeks is over, the material is always there for you. So that way, you're not really under any pressure to get it all done. And what I do with the lessons is I try to break them down into manageable chunks. So that's good for when you're going through the lessons and you just want to sort of be able to just take a piece that you can digest and work on a little bit and then move on to the next one. It's also good, when you want to go back in another month or two and you think, oh gosh, I remember using Live Trace in the class and I just need a review. So you can just look for the right title and play that video, and you're right back there where you need to be. So anyway, so that's kind of how the class works. And now I'm just going to talk with you about what we cover in class. And Ginger, let me know if you have any questions. But let's see, I'm going to have a sip of water here. My voice is just a little bit hoarse. Let's see. All right, so I have some slides here I want to show you, just some things that'll sort of point out some of the different things about the class. Let's see. Let me go get this next slide. Let's see. All right. There it is. Okay, so this is basically a little bit of what we cover in class. We start out the first week with gradients and effects. So if you're used to working in Illustrator with just flat shapes and solid colors, it's amazing what you can do when you use gradients. And also in CS4 and CS5, gradients, particularly starting in CS4, they improved a lot. There's a gradient tool now, which makes working with gradients a little bit more intuitive, and so I cover that. But you're able to get all kinds of wonderful sort of subtle effects like this, and not only what you see in this yellow to orange area here, but this sort of transparent look here. You can also achieve with gradients. So gradients and transparency together, which I have a little bit of right here, are just amazing additions to what you can do in Illustrator. And you can use them, and also effects. In fact, I have some shadowing in here too. So it's a great way to make your work more dynamic, and you can make it as subtle or as bold as you want to. So, but you learn all of the sort of the foundations for that, and we work through a project that gets you sort of working in a gradient mindset too. So that's great for that. Then the second week is all about repeat patterns and the pattern functionality, the swatch pattern swatch functionality in Illustrator. And then the third week focuses on using images in Illustrator. So, and the live trace feature. So in fact, here I have a little bit of a photograph that I'm demonstrating live trace with. So let me move on to the next slide, and let's see, and I can show you a little bit more of what we go through. Let's see. It takes me a minute to get through these slides. Let's see. The first one is gradients here. Okay. Got it. All right. So this image is the main project that we work on in the first week of class when we're working on gradients, transparency, and then also a little bit with effects and the appearance panel. I give you some very basic shapes, and I take you through the steps of coloring them, giving them gradients, and really decking them out. So you'll have the experience of working on a layered illustration file. And so you'll also there's a lot to learn in this first week. It's not only about gradients, but just sort of the method of working on a layered illustration file. So you learn sort of how to organize your file in terms of, your background, your midground, your foreground, and also manipulating things between layers. We go through that towards the end of the week. So we'll work on gradients. We also apply, let me get my little arrow out here. We also apply patterns. You can see there's sort of a stipple pattern in the background. There's this wave pattern here on the table, and then a gravel pattern here. And these are all things that you can do using included patterns in Illustrator and the patterns that I include in the exercise files, but you can apply them using the appearance panel. And if you haven't worked with the appearance panel before, this is an amazing tool. It's really I say at least, well, it's just as important as the layers panel. It's almost like a layers panel for individual objects. And so you'll come to work with that and understand that more in this first week of class. And then as you can see, I was kind of pointing this out in that little swatch from the last slide, but this glassy effect here is a transparent gradient. And actually, this is too a lot of these glass effects. So that's another thing that you get to learn about. Working with transparency is something that I use constantly in my work. Not only is it great for effects like this, but really it's a way to sort of get into some really nice color blending. And so even if you're not doing sort of an effects-laden type of illustration, you can get a long way with working with color by using transparency. So we cover all that in the first week. And then, let me see, I'm going to move on to the next slide here. Then we move on to the second week of class, where we work with patterns. And this pattern that I'm showing here is actually an included pattern. It comes with Illustrator. So in the Illustrator libraries, there are already a lot of repeat patterns. And pattern swatches in Illustrator, they're like color swatches. They live on the swatches panel, and you can apply them to anything. So you already have this capability, even if you don't know how to create one from scratch on your own. But what we do is we start out and we sort of pick apart some of the patterns that you'll find included with Illustrator, and that just sort of helps us to understand the principles behind creating repeat pattern swatches in Illustrator. So that's where we start with patterns, and then we move on to another slide here. Then we learn about creating our own patterns. And so you will emerge from class with a collection of patterns that you made yourself. Now this one that I'm showing here is a geometric pattern. It's certainly not exactly where we start. We start really simple and we work our way towards more interesting or more complex patterns like this. But what we're doing in this example here, get my arrow out, is we're starting to use some of what we learned in week 1 with the gradients, and we're applying it to the patterns here. So you can see I've added some subtle shadows and effects here, and what a nice effect that adds to the resulting pattern. So the other thing that you learn when you're working with patterns is just a lot of sort of the basic things about working in Illustrator. Like if you're in CS4 and CS5, you have multiple artboards capability. So we talk about that in this week. There's also the transform panel, and that's a big part of working with patterns, because anything you want to do with patterns requires, with patterns that you want to repeat seamlessly and create those tiles, it requires some precision for sure. And so, Illustrator has great tools for that, for aligning and measuring things and moving them to certain places on the artboard. And those are skills that translate to other things, not just pattern making. So it's a great way to sort of get into some of those tools like the transform panel. So this is sort of the middle of the week. And then let's look at another one here. Later on in the week, near the end of the week, we'll go even further and talk about making irregular patterns like this. So we start out at the beginning of the week picking apart the patterns that are included in Illustrator and studying them to understand how they work. And we move on to simple patterns like checks and ginghams, plaids, polka dots, things like that. Then we move on to geometrics, like the slide I just showed you. And then finally, and then we move on to doing a little bit more with ornamental patterns. And then finally, we do a discussion of working on irregular patterns like this. I mean, as you can see, there's really no sort of rhyme or reason here. And creating patterns like this can be kind of fun and intuitive. But there are some ground rules for making those work, and as you see here, I froze it on this frame where I'm about to start talking about that. So it's sort of a nice soup to nuts coverage of working on repeat patterns in Illustrator. So that's week 2, and then moving on to week 3. Week 3 is really it's mostly about live trace, or it's sort of centered around working on live trace in Illustrator. And live trace is a feature that allows you to take an image like a photograph and trace it and turn it into vector art. And that's really pretty exciting because it does kind of a really interesting things for photographs. But there's also all kinds of ways to use it to enhance your illustrations. So I want to kind of cover a number of those things so that you know about your options when you're using live trace, about your creative options. So we start out the week talking about how to use images in Illustrator. And so that sort of sets us up for working with live trace. And so in this slide, what I'm showing is just we have photographs here. We also have a pen and ink drawing here that I've brought in, and then more photographs. There's a pencil sketch, more pen and ink. And so just to start, it's good to know how to bring in images, how to swap them out if you need to, and basically just preparing ourselves for live trace. And probably the way that I use live trace the most in my work is for things like this right here. This is the pen and ink drawing. Here's another pen and ink drawing. It's the way that I like to add hand-drawn touches to my work. So if you want to add a signature to your work, or fun hand lettering like this, it's nice to be able to do it, on paper and scan it in, and then live trace it and have it become a vector object so that you can scale it, change the color, edit it, cut it apart if you need to, all of those sorts of things. So Live Trace is sort of the doorway into a lot of versatility in Illustrator. So this is where we start on the third week. And I love all of the weeks of class because there's a lot of great stuff in there. But this week is probably my favorite just because we cover some really great ground. And it's a lot of fun what you can do. So I'm going to move on to another slide here to show you basically, once we talk about getting your image into Illustrator, then we talk about fine-tuning the settings, really understanding how Live Trace works, and what do you want out of your final image. And so you make those determinations, then you can do all the settings so that you have the optimum settings for the image that you're working on. And so I cover that from working with photographs to working with ink drawings because those are very different. Routes that you're traveling. And so here's a screenshot of just the panel, and we're talking about how we're working with this particular photograph here. And there are many interesting features locked within here that we cover. So Live Trace can be very simple. It can be a little bit more complex if you want it to be. And so I try to cover everything so that you know all your options. And then next, we start putting this into practice. Got another slide here. We start putting this into practice in capturing textures that we can add to our artwork. And what I'm showing here is basically a scan. It's 4 different scans here of some textures, and I provide these to you in the exercise files. So these are already here for you to work with, and then I take you through the steps of maximizing them in Live Trace to bring them into Illustrator and make them into vector objects and vector textures that you can then color, add transparency to, and add them to your illustrations. So this is a really powerful way to use Live Trace as well. So we're covering that in class. And this is part of a project that we work on in this week where we literally use everything that we've used in the class so far. So it's a great way to sort of reinforce everything that you've been learning throughout the class. All right, so next slide. That project that I was just talking about, here's a screenshot of it from the class. It's a single panel invitation, and it's a little bit obscured here by the layers panel, but this is the example art, and then on the left here we have the art that you'll actually be working on. And so we really utilize just about every feature I've talked about in class in this project. This lovely artwork right here is a motif that I provide you with, and that we Live Trace it, and then we recolor it using some of the interesting, just some of the useful tools in Illustrator. And then there's kind of a fading edge to it here, and that we achieve using opacity masks. So we also cover masking in this final week too, because masking is a big part of working with photographs in Illustrator, and it's also a part of making interesting effects like this. So this effect right here, where the image is sort of fading out into the background, is an opacity mask, and we cover that in this third week of class too. Then of course we have these polka dot patterns, which we did in week 2, and now we can actually apply them to this project. And then we have this border here that this also is using an opacity mask as well. And then the outer strip here of polka dot pattern has a very subtle texture, and you can't really see it in this image because it's just too small right now, but it's the kind of texture that sort of makes what was a very smooth graphic polka dot pattern into a pattern that looks like it was done on some canson paper, some pastel paper. It has just a little bit of texture to it. And those are the kind of effects that you can add when you scan in textures and run them through LiveTrace. So, so that's a part of this final project too. So that's the big project for week 3. And then we wrap up the week with a look at Vector Smart Objects. So if you work in Photoshop, you're really going to love Vector Smart Objects using Illustrator. If you haven't tried this before, it's almost like it's having the best of both worlds, really. So you can see in this slide here, I've got that motif that we looked at in the last image, and I'm bringing this, actually, here it is on this side, it's in Illustrator, and then on this side it's in Photoshop. And when I have an image like this in Photoshop that is part of a Vector Smart Object that came from Illustrator, I can take this motif here and I can scale it up as large as I want to. I never have to decide before, like you would when you export something and you have to say, okay, I know I'm only going to use this, the largest I'm going to use it is 5 inches wide, and I'll make it 300 dpi, you know, and then you get it into Photoshop and you start playing around with it and you decide, oh, I really want to enlarge this, and then you've got to start over and go remake that that piece of art again. Well, using Vector Smart Objects, you never have to make up your mind about that, because you have basically a vector file, an Illustrator file embedded inside of your Photoshop document. So all the scalability that Illustrator affords is right there for you in Photoshop. It's a really, really cool technique, and it's what we work on in the very last lesson of week 3. And I even have one more slide to show you, my very last slide, which is about the Vector Smart Object topic once again. But I just wanted to show you this last image here because so the evolution from the last image I showed you to this one, I've screened back this flower motif here, and I've added this sort of ornate border. And this ornate border I got from a clip art book. I scanned it in and I put it through LiveTrace to bring it into Illustrator and make it a vector object. Then I used the texture that we created with LiveTrace in week 3, and I made, using a mask here, I added this texture to the line work. So the line work to begin with was just solid black in a clip art book. And here I sort of transformed it into something that almost looks like it was painted on wood, you know, and it has that sort of antiqued, roughed up texture. So this is achievable in Illustrator, and it's right over here in Illustrator. And then I've brought it into Photoshop, and because it's a Vector Smart Object, as you can see, it started out this size here, and over in Photoshop I've enlarged it, and it's still crisp and clear. So anyway, that's pretty much everything we cover in the class. And if you have any questions, let me know. In fact, we've got Ginger here. Nobody else has come tonight because we did have a little bit of an email glitch in telling people about the schedule. But if you're watching this video later on, the archived version, then you'll find my email address on Renee's website. You can just send me an email and ask me your questions there. I'm happy to answer your questions. So, in fact, I think I'll go ahead and put it up here in the... Ginger says, I'm very interested in learning more about LiveTrace. Yeah, I think you're going to love it. I mean, it's really literally, I don't... there's probably not an illustration I do that I don't use LiveTrace. for. And even if it's for something really subtle, it just it's the way to bring anything sort of hand done into your illustrations. And then it's kind of amazing, you know, what it can do with photographs too. And then of course, like I was just talking about with that clip art border, and this is one of the demonstrations that I'll do in the chats. We talk about working with clip art and live trace. So that's incredibly versatile too. You know, because I like to collect clip art books just to have them on hand because there's all kinds of nifty stuff in there, and I'll even buy them, you know, cheap and used on eBay because, you know, nowadays we have so many clip art books that have CDs attached to them and they're full color and all that stuff, and sometimes the old ones that are just solid black line art are inexpensive. People are passing them by more now, and in favor of more colorful things. And then, you know, I pick them up for cheap, and I get a lot of interesting stuff that I can use and scan in. So so it's a lot of fun what live trace can do for your artwork. All right, so here is my Laura C at ReneePearson.com. All right, so there is my, I hope I spelled that right. Yeah, it looks like I did. That's my email address. And then, let's see. I wanted to put another link, but I don't think I'm seeing it right now. Hold on a second. Okay, I also have a YouTube channel. So check this out as well. I put there's one sample lesson on Renee's site on the marketing page for this class, the page that talks about the class, the page where you can sign up on ReneePearson.com. You can watch one sample video from the class. But on my YouTube channel, I have other sample videos. And so if you want to check those out, there's a tutorial on masking from this class, and then there's also videos from some of my other classes, so you can just get a feel for my teaching style, and that's all on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/coyleart. So anyway, that's it, y'all. I hope that you've enjoyed this chat. If you got it, Ginger, if you have anything else you want to ask me, let me know, because I think I'm going to go ahead and end it a little bit early tonight. But it's funny, I just got this card I wanted to show you. This is, and I'm not sure if you can see it. Oh yeah, here. This is my vampire, and he's out now at Papyrus for Halloween. So if you have a Papyrus store near you, you've got to get this card. It's actually a greeting card, but it's like this, you know, you can fold him up, or he came folded up, but now he's like this really fun, posable vampire decoration. And so that's at Papyrus. And then here's the envelope, and it has this kind of interesting herringbone bat pattern in it, and Illustrator pattern swatches. That's how I did that. And of course, there's transparency in here, and some of the stuff that we learn about in class too. So I use the stuff I'm talking about in this class in my own work all the time. So I hope you will consider taking the class. And also, if you think this might be not quite your cup of tea just yet, I have Beginning Illustrator, which really starts at the very beginning. So if you are a complete newbie to Illustrator, I take you from beginning, and we start out slow in that class. But also, if you are kind of like dabbling in Illustrator, but you haven't really feel like you've gotten the fundamentals, you'll learn a lot from Beginning Illustrator too. So even though we start out slow in the first week, we pick up the pace, and there are plenty of shortcuts and tricks and tips in there for people who have some experience. So, oh, Renee says, cool. Yeah, you like I love my vampire. I have another card here. Actually, I forgot. So here's another Halloween card. at Papyrus. So this is like enter if you dare, this spooky door. And then it's a bat. It has sound too. Oh, this card is really fun. And this card has radiance in it. So, and another pattern in the envelope liner. They are, Papyrus, gosh, their cards are so amazing and elaborate and fun to work on. So those should be in the Papyrus store right now. Yeah, Papyrus. That's exactly right. So anyway, and I do it all in Illustrator. So let's see. Oh, Ginger says she's been to the YouTube channel, and yes, we got Papyrus. Okay, great. Well, so guys, I think that's it for tonight. But thank you, Ginger, for coming. I really appreciate you being here tonight. And again, my email address is here for anybody who's watching this later on and wants to ask me a question about the class. I hope you will join us, and then I will see you this Friday. And even if you don't make it on Friday, you can catch up. So hit me up next week and ask me a question and join class, and we'll be there for you too then. All right. Well, thanks so much. Thanks, Renee. All right, guys. Good night. Take care.